Hello, we are live on Thursday, June 19th, 2025, and this is episode 152. We're going to be looking at an offline time entry mobile app for Acumatica, and you can find the episode page at augforums.com/episode 152. We've got Rob Griffin here with me today. Rob, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
And before we launch into your little, not little, your, I don't know what to call it, your time entry mobile app for Acumatica, why don't you give us I was like getting the brief origin story of all of our guests. So maybe you could tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you got into the world of mid-market ERP.
Sure. So I grew up in a really small town called Cabot, Arkansas. It's close to Little Rock. We had a horse farm, and just had a very different life than I have nowadays. Very small town. I went to the University of Central Arkansas, which is in Conway, and I studied. Originally, I was going to be in computer science. I moved to the business school and did quantitative methods and information systems. Was what my final degree was in.
So you were actually an information systems major. I feel like most of the people that I asked that question to, it's some other background and like an accidental arrival in mid-market ERP. It sounds like you lined up for that in college. That's pretty rare. That's awesome.
Well, I did. My dad ran a software company. So I always had an interest in that. I didn't know where that was going to exactly take me, but I had thought about that for a really long time.
Interesting. I'm curious, what kind of software company did he run?
At that time, it was the early days of managed care software in the healthcare space.
Oh wow.
So pretty, I would say, bleeding edge for that time, what they were doing.
I think they called EHR software, right? Not ERP, but EHR, I think, electronic health record software.
It was more on the payer side. So like they would work with Blue Cross Blue Shield and some of the commercial insurance companies.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh, cool. I feel like it's rare. People might think that's more the usual, but I feel like it's not the usual. So it's kind of cool when I like, oh, you did it the way you're supposed to, the way you got into mid-market ERP. And then your company. So you got 2 increased partners up above your head there. I'll put this on at the end as well, but there's your email address for anyone who wants to reach out to you about your solution here. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah. Well, let me go back real quick how I got into ERP.
Yes.
Probably an interesting story. So I started my career in software development and moved to Dallas in the mid 90s. And I was working for a company that ultimately was hotels.com, but it was pre-IPO. And I met a friend here in Dallas, just got out of the Marines, and he was from North Dakota. And all he talked about was this company called Great Plains. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what ERP was at that time. And he had just got a job there. And he kept calling and saying, you've got to come work for this company. It's the greatest company. And so I did. And we were doing e-commerce of all things back in those days. And because of a development background, that was a very good transition for me, but that piqued my interest in really understanding ERP and how does this really work. So that's how I actually got started in ERP, and I made that journey from Great Plains to Microsoft as part of all the acquisitions Microsoft was doing around 2000. So it was a very, very interesting time in the marketplace.
And so your current company, then you're an Acumatica value-added reseller?
Correct.
And any other products as well, or is it just Acumatica?
We do Procore and a number of products around Acumatica and Procore. We do a lot in the commercial construction space. So there's a lot of good synergies around those products.
And so I got to ask you, and maybe we turn this into a viral soundbite, but as someone who goes way back on Great Plains, what do you find to be a more natural transition for a company that's running on Great Plains? Loved the Great Plains product. Now it's getting sunsetted by Microsoft. Do you find it's it's hard to make this generalization, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you find it's a more natural transition to migrate to Dynamics Business Central or to migrate to something like Acumatica?
Well, in all transparency, I really haven't kept up with all the features with Business Central. I do follow it a little bit, obviously, because I need to know that. But what strikes me in going back over the years, there were so many third parties required for Great Plains. I mean, there just was. The market was different then, the products were different then, and that was really a hallmark of having to have all of that. And so the people and customers I've talked to, a lot of them are not excited about migrating to Business Central for two reasons. One, they have a lot of customizations, and two, they have several third parties, or they don't believe all of the capabilities are there yet still. And remember, I was at the ground zero of this whole thing that happened with Great Plains and Microsoft. So I had a front row seat to a lot of it. So to answer your question, we have migrated a number of different types of ERPs to Acumatica. And I would say in the best non-biased fashion I could, Acumatica is actually the easier product to migrate to. And
then what about just culturally? Like, one thing I've heard a lot of people, specifically from a Great Plains background, and more under John Roscoe, Acumatica's become more of the corporate beast that every ERP company becomes, but especially under John Roscoe, I heard a lot of Great Plains partners talk culturally, especially like when they go to an Acumatica Summit, it was culturally similar to Great Plains. Was that the case for you as well?
100%. Yes, it really is. And that is one of the things that I most highly value about the Acumatica channel, is that it feels just like that. It's hard to explain unless you've experienced both.
But it's a feel, right? I don't know how you express it, but yeah. All right, cool. Well, hey, I want to give you a chance to show your product here. So, I'll just give the quick background, which was, and I'll throw your email up on the screen here. Quick background was that I saw you at the Acumatica Summit during the Hackathon, which is the weekend before. And I don't know how we got talking about this, but you were telling me about the time entry mobile app that you got and that it works offline. So that piqued my interest, because I know a lot of people are looking for something like that. And why don't you go ahead and let's just pop in. You can give us a tour, and I'll pester you with all sorts of technical questions, because I like to dig into things and learn when I do these. That sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
All right, I'll put let's see. I gotta click the right button. There we go. You are on the screen. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me give a little bit of a backstory how we got here. As we've already talked about, my background is in software development. So over my career, I've been involved with a number of products, a number of customization. A lot. I actually totaled up the products that I've been involved with that are actual products over my career, and the build value of those products is over $50 million. So over my career, that's how the dollar value of products I've been associated with from a build standpoint. So
when you say build, you mean like billing by the hour to build all these products?
Price.
Yeah. Okay.
The price to build it. So I've been involved with a number of commercial product builds. And the reason we built this is the customer we were working with originally in the sales process, we showed them a lot of the products that were available that integrated with Acumatica. And for one reason or another, they just didn't meet their requirements. And there was one very specific requirement that they had, and that was for the foreman to be able to enter time for the crew and equipment on one screen, and to do it in a matter of a couple of seconds. And so the more we talked to them, they said, could you build this for us? Because that's really what we want. And we said, we can do it. We're not going to do it as a custom product. We're going to build it as a product and resell this to the market if we're going to do it. And so this is the product. It's called WebTime. It runs in Microsoft Azure. It's got a
Can I ask you real quick, what made you want to do that? Like, you got to be really careful. If you're going to go build a product and it's too narrow, it's going to be a waste of time. Like, what made you say, you know what, rather than just treat this as a one-off project and bill you by the hour, what made you say, hey, we're going to build this as a product and sell it to the market?
A couple of things, Tim. One was there was a client that we were working with already, not an Acumatica customer, but they were a large player in the residential construction space. And we just built a product for them for the residential construction space, and it to do inspections and a whole host of things. It was about a $14 million product that we built, and we had the team, and we did a very complex offline mode for that product. So we already had the capabilities to do this. We knew we could do it. And I had been wanting to get into the Acumatica APIs anyway. So it was just the timing was right to do all of this. It was a good opportunity for us, and it solved a customer problem, which was bigger than the biggest reason of all. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Yeah. So then you were saying it's an official software product on Azure. Go ahead, keep going from there.
Yeah. So it runs in Azure, Microsoft Stack, React front end. So, modern from every sense from that standpoint. It has native iOS and Android for the mobile devices. And as you mentioned, we've got offline mode capabilities. Oddly enough, that was not an original requirement. Offline mode came later as a hard requirement. Originally, it was, like I said, it was the foreman having the ability to enter both crew and equipment time in one screen was really the original requirement that we were working from.
Did that offline capability come in as a requirement after they actually started using it, or was it more something they realized before they even saw the first build of it?
We recommended that feature while we were building it, because we already knew that there was a gap out there, and that if we were going to do this, we knew it was our opportunity to address that gap.
Makes sense. Yeah, I just asked because I wonder how many times a live app really works at scale in the real world. So I was wondering if that just was a case of software hitting the real world and then it became a requirement.
Yeah. There were some other little things that came up that I'll highlight as we worked together to build the product that I think made the product more versatile and useful. So I can kind of highlight those as we go. So what we're looking at here, if I was a foreman, and I'm logged in as an admin right now, so we can see there's this number right here. That's a crew ID. This first name is a foreman. So if I was logged in only as a foreman, I would only see my timesheet. I wouldn't see others here. But I want to do different things. So I'm logged in as an admin. But let me just click into one of these timesheets, this one right here, and I'll show you what I mean when I say that being able to enter one screen with crew and equipment. So this is integrated to Acumatica using the Acumatica APIs. So it's pulling projects from Acumatica. So some of these you can see these are actual projects that are sitting in Acumatica. Other ones say temp. I'll cover that in just a moment, what that is. But all the foreman has to do, come in, select their project, come in, select their date. They've already got their predefined crew and equipment here, and the foreman can unselect or select anybody they need to, or any equipment they need to in either case, if that's needed. Then all they do is select their task, select their cost code. This is a default time setting for this crew. So obviously that can be changed. They can enter notes. If there's a lunch or break time, they can enter that. It's not required. So if they don't enter anything, that's not there. One thing I will note here that's important is on the working time. If they're union, we've got to capture the start and stop times. And that's what we're doing in this case, is we're capturing start and stop times, and same thing on lunch. So that's an important little detail to note here. And once I hit save, it basically, and I'm not going to do it here. We'll just look at the record that's already here. It produces all of those records for that crew. So it's very quick. And the foreman can either do that on a laptop, they can do it on an iPad, or they can do it on their phone. If there's no connection and they're using a mobile device like their phone, that app syncs automatically upon login. So at least they've got that first sync. And then if they need to, or if they know they're going to go offline because of where they're going to be headed to, they can do a sync before that. And it'll operate just like it would here with the data that they've got. And then when they come back into service, it just syncs back just like normal. So there's not anything really significant about the offline mode other than there's not a lot of products that have that. And it was very easy for us to do that capability in this product.
I know you want to show more in the admin tool, but would you mind flipping over to the phone app for a second and just pretending we're one of those people, Carson, Matthew, Wendell, any one of them, and log time against that?
Right. So give me just a second here, and let's see if I can get connected again.
I know sharing a mobile app on a computer is always a little dicey. Oh, looks like you got it now.
Okay. So let's see.
There's that sync button, nice and big. That was one thing I was wondering. Where is it? Yeah, I like how big all the buttons are in general on the website too.
Yeah, we have a really good UI designer on our staff that does this. So there is a lot of thought that's put into this. You can see the sync button at the top. And again, from a parity standpoint, if I click the little button at the bottom to enter time, you'll see that it works exactly the same as what we just went through on the website. And all we're doing on the mobile side here is just entering time. There's not any admin features on the mobile app, because the whole point of the mobile app here is to be able to use this either for convenience, because you want to just operate on the phone, or be able to have the offline mode capability. And, as we all know, in most metro areas, that's not a need. But in remote cases, and I think my share just quit, Tim.
That's all right. No problem. Yeah, you can flip back to that. I just want to just get a look at the mobile app just for a second there.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Finish your thought there. Go ahead.
So the point is, when you need offline capabilities, what you really want to focus on from a customer standpoint. So if you're a foreman out in a remote place, you just want to get your time. You don't want to mess around with getting time entered. You just want to quickly do it and move on and do the job you're there to do. And that's why this is so simplistic. it's not designed to be something you or I would use in an office where we might have more bells and whistles and features, because the end user doesn't care about any of that stuff. And it's a very important point to notate, because we understand this because we work with so many of these types of customers.
No, totally. Less is more for sure. If you go back into that one of those here in the admin side, so it looks like you're thinking like a foreman right now. So the foreman set this up, and then even when you're on the phone, I noticed you had team members. Is it normally the foreman who enters the time for the entire team, or do the team members do it individually?
Well, that's a great question, because when we originally, so this was one of the requirements I alluded to that changed. When we originally built the product, it was focused only on crew time entry. But as as we started putting this in the first customer's hands, they were like, hey, could our office staff also use this product to enter their time? And it's like, well, they're not crews. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't matter. Can they do it? And so the short answer was yes. So it basically is to use a crew of one, if you will. It works just the same if you're an individual time entry or if you're a crew. The only difference is, for an individual, you're not going to have anybody here, and you're probably not going to have equipment. You're just going to enter time for yourself, and then it goes through the approval process. So it does both. And that was probably a little icing on the cake that the customer helped us with, because we weren't thinking like that, because we were so focused on the crew side of things and the equipment side of things that we almost missed that.
And so, but for that first customer, when it's the crew out in the field, in the real world, is it the foreman who enters the time for all the crew members? I'm just curious.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
But then it sounds like, if I flip over and I look at my Acumatica, it looks like kind of your crew world where you're adding equipment and team members. That probably goes into the equipment time cards, the EP 38,000 screen in Acumatica.
It's exactly correct.
And then if I don't put on equipment, is it smart enough to somehow know to go into the employee time cards, the EP 35,000 screen in Acumatica?
Yeah, that is correct.
Interesting. Okay, so that's how you're able to use it for either one. Okay, all right, gotcha. Perfect. And while I'm there, I know we chatted about this before we went live, but while I'm there, I just wanted to cover. I think currently this is working for projects, especially aimed at a construction company, maybe in the future manufacturing or field service, but not at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, just want to hit that. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to derail you too much, but I will derail you.
A couple other features that I want to highlight that are pretty useful is this ad project. So our first customer is a utility contractor. They build overhead and underground utility lines, and they also do repairs. And they work across all the southern states. And a lot of times these crews, every day they go out, and they're already out in the field doing work. And a lot of times what happens is they get handed a work order in the field. And that work order is going to be a project in Acumatica, but it's not in Acumatica yet. And so they got to, they're authorized to do the work, but they need to be able to enter that time, because the requirement is they enter their time daily. And so in a case like that, they would just come in here and enter their work order right away, put in whatever that number is or whatever description they want to put in, and put in their task. They may have multiple tasks that they would put in here, and that would then enable them to go ahead and enter time against that project. So if I
and that was only on the browser side, or was that also on the mobile app side?
They can do it on both.
Okay.
On both sides. And so here's that, and that's why it says temp. So they can select that just like any other project, enter their time, and then I'll show you in a moment how that gets reconciled with Acumatica. So web time doesn't care if it's a temp project or it's an Acumatica project. It's going to work the same in either case. So that's really a nutshell overview of the time card. Let me show a couple of the admin features. And
Oh, I totally missed. You might have shown it and I blanked out. Did you show the merge part? The merge of the project?
Not yet. That's exactly.
Oh, you're gonna show that next. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Go ahead.
Where I was going to go. So let me start with users, and then I'll go to projects, and then we'll talk about crews. So now these are going to be admin features that I'm going to show you. That's why I'm logged in as an admin. So whoever the administrator is for web time, which typically is also maybe an Acumatica administrator as well, this is pulling these records from the Acumatica employee records. And so if I drill into one of these, what you're going to see is the name from Acumatica, employee ID. This person doesn't have one, but this would be the employee ID from Acumatica. The crew ID is a concept that we developed with WebTime because a lot of times, especially like on the utility side, and sometimes on the construction side, those crews are named. It could be a number, it could be a person's name. So that's actually assigned in WebTime, and that does flow into Acumatica. We have emails.
So it doesn't have to be a number. It could be characters. It could be a name.
It could be characters. It could be Akash's name if we wanted to do it that way. The admin can control access to WebTime right here. And if it's an administrator, they can flip that on for admin access. And then this sends an activation email for the first time login. We've got a new feature that's not here yet where we allow the admin to control password resets. So this was pretty cool feature, because if you think about it, if you have, let's say, 100 crews out in the field, you don't want their password being reset all at once for all 100 crews, because what's going to happen, you're going to get, dozens of phone calls back to the office because, hey, our password didn't work or something, they were confused. And so having this new feature to reset password, the admin can do that, like maybe 5 a week or 10 a week, and better control password resets. So that's a new feature that will come out here pretty soon. But that's the user setup. So now let's go look at the project setup. So again, projects are coming out of Acumatica. So if we look at one of these that is maybe one of these down here that has a regular looking project number. What this screen does is it allows us to turn on or off cost codes, because you may have some of these cost codes on the project that you don't want them entering time to. And so that's the purpose of this screen, is it gives you all the cost codes that are out there, and then you can turn on or turn off by project which cost codes you want them entering time to. So that's one function of the screen. The other function that you mentioned, if I go to this temporary project, you see which one I was going to work with here. I think it was this one right here.
And it looked like it was more than just cost code. It was a combination of cost code and task. Like, is it really just translate to a budget line on the project?
It essentially does. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So here is here's one of our temporary projects that one of the foremen set up, and the merge project feature is right here. It's because it knows this is a temp project. The admin can come in and click on this and they can then determine, once that project has been set up in Acumatica, they can then come in here and say, oh, okay, this is actually the project that it should be, the time should be assigned to. So this will then merge that, and whatever the foreman set up here and whatever cost code they selected, this is where the admin determines actually how that should be set up for according to the way Acumatica was done. And then they just click merge, and now that time is automatically now assigned to that project. And when the foreman goes in again to enter any more time, instead of seeing the temp project, they're now putting time against this project.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that feature. And I also like that they're able to create a temporary project from the app, because that's the real world, right? They're out there, they pull the piece of paper up and it's not in the list and doesn't stop them. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. The last thing you want to do to your foreman and your field team is slow them down. I mean, they want to get the job done, and this really should just be a tool to enable them and not get in their way, and to minimize the time they have to spend on this part of the process. All right, so those are the admin features. As far as if I go back to the timesheet view, as timesheets are completed and they get submitted, they go into this middle column. If nobody's looked at it yet and I'm a foreman, I can recall that back and then make any changes I need to make here. You'll also see here this little check mark, GF and OM, that's a general foreman and operations manager. You can see they have already reviewed it because those are checked there. And the way that is reviewed is with an admin capability. You go to the review timesheets. That gives you all the ones that are available to be reviewed. So they just go through each one of these and they can examine the time. They can download a report if they want. They can return that back to the foreman, or they can approve it. So pretty standard. They can also edit directly here if they need to, if they know what they're changing.
So I have a couple questions about that. Before I do, though, as I've transitioning into this live broadcast format, I'm going to try to get in the habit of about halfway through playing a little video on Trailed, which is the company that I'm spending most of my time with these days. So grab a drink of water and we'll take a little 2-minute break and we'll come back on in 2 minutes.
Okay.
What if 85% of the time spent navigating manual accounts payable work disappeared, effortlessly leaving you with a clear, secure path forward? Meet Trailed, the smarter way to streamline, automate, and protect your AP. Trailed's AI, like a seasoned navigator, expertly extracts invoice data from even the trickiest invoices, allocates coding, and matches line items to purchase orders and receipts. Unlike traditional OCR that keeps stumbling over the same mistakes, Trailed learns how you deal with your suppliers, adapting itself to the nuances of your AP landscape for unparalleled accuracy. And just like you expect a vigilant lookout on credit card payments, Trailed offers 24/7 monitoring of your invoices, scanning for anomalies and risks of potential fraud. With all your invoices clearly mapped and tracked in one place, you control the pace. Set up workflows in seconds to automatically approve and fast-track low-risk or PO-matched invoices, while directing higher-risk invoices through digital approval paths. Approvers can easily review and approve on the go. Approved invoices are seamlessly synced in real time with your accounting system for batching and processing. You'll gain a bird's eye view of your supplier payments and any associated risks, like changed bank details or improper approvals. Plus, suppliers are verified across the network in government databases, offering executives high-level oversight over potential pitfalls before releasing payment. Elevating your finance team with Trailed isn't a complex project to take on. As a seamless extension of your existing system, you'll be up and running in hours, not months. So, if you're ready to elevate your finance team, automating your AP while staying in control, it's time for Trailed.
All right, and we're back. So put it back on the screen. So a couple questions I had on this. It sounds like this first customer of yours was heavily focused on the crew piece, although you've got the ability to handle the individual side as well. When I look at the screens in Acumatica, so I look at the equipment time cards and the employee time cards. One of them I'm entering time for an equipment. The other one I'm entering time for an employee. There's no crew concept. Like, how does that tie in? Did you customize those screens in Acumatica, or does the crew concept just stay in the, I think what you're calling the is it called Brightstar, your product?
It's called WebTime.
WebTime. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a customization that goes along with this, and for that first customer, crew ID was so important to them. If you think about it from a project standpoint, anything that hits a project, almost like if you think of cost codes, Tim, we all know cost codes are associated with projects and give you a great deal of reporting capabilities. Crew ID is also that important. And so we did customizations at the geo level, at the AP level, at the time level, and at the project level, and the invoice level, so that crew ID flows freely between all of those different areas.
And is it on the time level? Is it just on the employee time card screen because it's really something only associated with the employee, or is it somehow on the equipment side as well?
It's on both.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does flow into Acumatica because you've created a place for that crew time to flow. Okay.
Right. And in their case, to go one step further, they're using Workforce Go for their payroll because they're a large union shop. We also have crew ID flowing through Workforce Go on the labor side, and it comes into Acumatica actually from Workforce Go in their case.
And what's the difference if it flows into Workforce Go versus Acumatica? Is that do some companies do both, or is there a reason why you'd go into one first versus go directly into the other?
Well, in their case, the driver there they were multiple unions, and Workforce Go was the best fit for them from a payroll standpoint. If they were running payroll in Acumatica, then it would just flow from WebTime to Acumatica in the same fashion.
So it sounds like it's going to both places. One's for payroll purposes and the other's for the capturing of hours, which could be for billing purposes or some other function.
Right. It on their invoices, that crew ID also prints on the invoice. So they had some very unique invoicing requirements as a utility contractor, where we actually had to do grouping by crew ID on the invoices.
Okay. I think that's all I had on that. Yeah. So the time card identifier, I'm still trying to map like into my regular Acumatica world. I've got like a reference number on both the employee time card and the equipment time card screen. That's essentially what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at individual time card records.
Right. So when we process, let me go to the process timesheets screen. So in this case, I only have one record here that's been processed. The labor time where it says user, in this case, one of the use cases we have, this gets processed and that flows over to Workforce Go for payroll processing. Once payroll is finished, then there's a feed from Workforce Go to Acumatica to feed into the employee time. And on the equipment side, this flows straight into the Acumatica equipment time card. Both of these functions are using APIs. So in this one use case, we have the API is from web time to Workforce Go, and then from Workforce Go to Acumatica. On the equipment side, the API is web time to Acumatica equipment time card.
This might not be the right point to ask this, but oh well. This is I do an unscripted format here. So yeah, you've got a nice like simplistic UI. I like the big buttons. I like the nice UI of it. But then there's a lot going on here. This is a pretty substantial, especially when you involve Workforce Go. And so where I'm going with this is, you mentioned earlier you had built a $14 million product for a company. I don't know what the situation was here, but like, how do you, this might be a good time to even talk about how you're pricing it, but how do you pitch in general to a customer when you're, forget about this app for a moment, but when you're doing a complete custom situation, how do you calculate the ROI? It's sort of a buy or rent model, right? Hey, we're going to come in, and especially when you throw out a number like 14 million, that's a big amount for a software app. Does that, like, how do you then compare that to just grabbing an off the shelf SaaS product?
Well, let me give you a few more details on the $14 million project. So obviously that was funded. There was a funder behind that. And what we were hired to do was build that product for them or with them. In this case, in the way we do business, I'll give you more.
Can I then ask on that one? Were you building a software product for a software company?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because you're typical, like, when you're just trying to customize Acumatica, you're not going to want to buy it off a $14 million product.
Right, no.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. And in that case, obviously we did not own the IP. It was not we didn't end up owning that IP. We were just hired to build and launch that product. But as it relates to what we do here in the Acumatica space, and again, the way I look at this is obviously I want to start with the customer and show them what's natively available in Acumatica first, because that's going to be where we go to first. Personally, I do not want to take them down a path with anything additional or custom until we find out that it's a requirement. So we're always going to start with, this is what you get with Acumatica. Here's the time entry. Here's what's included. Here's the capabilities. We're always going to start there. Obviously, that limits, it could limit us in some cases, but that's just the way we do business. And I think that's the right thing to do. When we start seeing, hey, we don't really like that, or we want to do this, what other options are there? Okay, then we start talking about what's available. We start sharing with what our product, what we've done. And again, we're trying to educate that prospect or customer, because what the last thing I want to do is come straight away in and say, you need this product, because they may not need this product. They may be able to use Acumatica the way it is. And we have customers that do both, or that have both cases.
Yeah. And so I definitely want to get back to the product in a minute here, especially on the reporting side, because I like that kind of stuff. But there's two things I noticed about your product. So one is it came out of a real world situation, right? And I love solutions like that because you built it for that first customer. And can I ask how many customers you have on this so far?
Right now, we're working on number 3. So
okay, that's solid. That's solid.
This product has been live for I think a year and a half now, Tim.
Okay.
And we're really, that's why I'm doing this podcast with you today, because we're ready now to start really talking about the product.
Okay. Yeah, that's solid. Three might seem like a tiny number, but it's actually, I was expecting two, or even if you're just going to say one. But so I love these products that come out of a real world situation, because you always hear that from customers, right? I can't be the only one who needs this crew thing or whatever. Someone must have built it. And sure, I'm sure someone in the world did. It's how we find them, right? So that's one piece. But then the other piece I see here is, obviously the offline piece I think is a big differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other piece is you've now got the chops to build apps, mobile apps that have offline capability. And I don't know, do you think it's a stretch? This is my take from what I've seen so far. Do you think it's a stretch to say that you could iterate and build something wildly different for another customer a lot faster than you built this first one? Is that maybe too much of a stretch?
No, that's absolutely a true statement, because, the two hardest parts of doing this, number one was the UI. I have to give kudos to our first customer. We got to credit a lot of what you see on the UI, the simplicity, to them, because they had perfected the time entry in Excel is how they were doing it, current state before this. And they've done this for over 20 years. So they had a lot of experience with the way it should work. And we were able to leverage their knowledge collaboratively to build this product. So that was one part that we had to get right. The second part was fine tuning the Acumatica APIs, because it's one thing to go build it. And, well, now you got to performance test it. You got to make sure it's going to hold up and it's not going to blow up Acumatica when you do these API calls. So we had to go back and do some performance tuning. And we actually had Acumatica help guide us on that. And they did a fantastic job to help us with that part of it. So we really did appreciate the help that they gave us from that standpoint.
Yeah. And so I look at this as not just I don't know, I might be wrong here, but what I'm seeing here is not just a offline capability, time entry mobile app for construction crews that will then add the functionality to do manufacturing and field service later, and then maybe stop. I look at it more as, especially coming from the VAR perspective, where you're just meeting the needs of the client. You have the chops now that you figured out the UI and the backend APIs to just build any type of offline mobile solution for an Acumatica customer. That's not only, hey, I'm a mobile company that does mobile apps and I stop at the API. When I get to the APIs, it's either there or it's not. You extend further because you know the Acumatica framework. So you added that crew field into the places that they needed it, and then, synced it up with the mobile app. That type of holistic kind of white glove, we can do everything, is rare. And I don't know, that's kind of what I see. I know obviously everyone wants to just build an app and get as many customers as possible on the app. And hopefully you do that with this, what we're seeing right now. But I feel like that's also something that you offer. Is that the case?
That is a true statement. I think you nailed our sweet spot, Tim.
And then it just comes down to ROI, right? It comes down to like, all right, if we had this crazy other situation that we need to do that's completely not what you've built so far, it's a buy or rent thing, right? Like, does it make sense to build it just for that one client, or is it another space that you're willing to step into and own the IP on? You just kind of take that on a case by case, right?
Well, we do. And we have a number of projects right now we're about to start. There's a couple of enhancements we're working on with WebTime. One of them is for our first customer, which is going to push us even deeper into the utility contractor space. I'm not sure what the right term to use here. I've heard them call a stroke sheet. And basically what that is a lot of the power companies have this list of items. Think of it as SKUs that you have to do on some of these jobs. And it's almost like a checklist or not a configure. It doesn't go so far.
It sounds like a work order a little bit in manufacturing, like a light work order with some instructions on it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way to describe it. And so the foreman would use that. And so we're incorporating that into WebTime, and that feature will go live with this customer probably in 60 to 90 days for a new contract they have. Some of the other things that we're working on.
Can I say on that one before you do? Like, I think forms in general are a popular thing in construction, right? You've got all these paper forms. Mm-hmm. You're just looking to replace them digitally. I know there's a whole app ecosystem that just does forms. I don't know. Yeah, that'd be cool if you have some type of generic form builder in there at some point too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other projects that we're about to start working on, there are a couple of AI-based projects. Not going to be WebTime. This would be new products. And another one is for a lockout tagout application. So it doesn't just have to be Acumatica, but in some way, shape, or fashion, ultimately all of these kind of come back to the Acumatica space, because that's really the center of our universe, where we play.
But it sounds like you already are iterating. I mean, that whole UI backend thing we talked about, that's the heavy lift, and now you get to have more fun building on top of that. That's cool.
Yeah. And
all right,
it
sorry.
It is.
I'll let you get back to the app. I was just sidebarring there. Hey, by the way, what you had a hard stop? I know. Was it at 11:15 or a little bit after that?
I think it was 11:15, Tim. I think we're good here.
No, I mean, on your side, I know you had another meeting. I can go over a little bit, but I don't know what your hard stop was.
I am good until 10:30 Central. So.
Okay. All right. So we got about 20 minutes left. Okay, cool.
So I think I covered the last feature. A couple of features I'll cover here is, reporting takes a lot of shapes, and people want different things for reporting. In this case, what we did is we have a customer-facing report that you can go and select, the week of the time. So this is demo data, so I got to go back a little bit.
By the way, before you say it, don't say the name of the thing you're using on the back end. We'll keep that in your secret sauce. I wrote it down because I was interested before we went live. But yeah, you plugged in a whole thing on the back end to make this happen. But don't say the name. You got to keep that part of your secret sauce. Go ahead.
All right. So I can either run all crews by putting a date up here, or I can do one crew, which is the one I'm doing here. And so I select my crew, select my project, and it's going to say, well, this is the crew, and then I can run that report. This report in this use case is really designed to have the customer sign off on this time before the bill is generated in Acumatica. So that's
you hit the down. What happens when you hit the download report?
It downloads that report, and it's a PDF format, and
gotcha. Okay.
It just shows the hours. Basically, here's a crew, here's the date they worked, here's the time, and here's a place for sign off. And by the way, this was going to be an e-sign. We haven't done that feature yet. So right now it's a non-e-sign type of approval, but that was the intent here. We just haven't got to that.
Okay.
So that's what that's all about on that front. And we have a whole host of other reporting that's available through our reporting backend. Which basically that gives the customer the ability to design their own reports. So we're not having to do that for them.
Are you able to show that? That looked pretty cool.
This is the back end, and so you can use this for things like monitoring the APIs if there's an error. And what we typically see with errors is sometimes they'll have something that didn't get set up in Acumatica. So this can get really technical, but it actually, there's the ability to actually look at the response that was sent to either Acumatica or in Workforce Go or whatever application we're integrating with. So it gives the end user that has the right level of knowledge the ability to do some troubleshooting if something wasn't set up right.
And would this be another characteristic of any of the mobile apps that you build?
Yes. We always, a couple of things that we've learned is that are super important, especially when dealing with connected applications like this, is you need self-service customer reporting. That's a must-have. Because nobody, as we all know, in the ERP space, you really don't want to be, the customer doesn't want to be dependent on you writing reports for them.
Right.
So we've got to give them that power and capability. And then the second thing is logging, like audit trails. From a troubleshooting standpoint, or just be able to answer questions, you've got to have that capability to have audit trails to be able to see what happened. If, you know, because a lot of 9 times out of 10, what happened is really more of a question. I'll give you a perfect example of something that happened a few weeks ago. Is we had time that was put into a timesheet by a foreman, and then somebody in the back office went and deactivated some equipment by accident. They thought that equipment had been disposed of, so they deactivated it. But the time had already been put on the timesheet, and when they integrated the time, it failed because that equipment was no longer active. So that is a real world scenario, and we hadn't considered somebody might do that. And so we went back to the customer and said, hey, we can put this check in to make sure it never happens again. But having that audit trail enabled us to immediately see what happened. So it wasn't hard to troubleshoot that by our support team.
Nice.
So
I like that.
Things like that, and being able to cut. And what that also does is it gives the customer more confidence when you're able to quickly answer those questions and say, "Oh, here's what happened, and here's what we could do about it." To prevent something like that from happening in the future.
And to me, that's a third critical leg, if you will, like those chairs that you use in barns that only have 3 legs, because they can basically balance on any type of uneven surface. You got your 3 legs here. One is the UI that you figured out with the React front end, the modern look and feel with the nice big buttons. You've got the chops to handle the Acumatica APIs, including reaching into the framework and creating anything that you need within Acumatica. And then your third leg is that reporting capability, both capturing stuff when it comes to errors and things like that, but then also giving the customer the ability to create whatever report they want based on the data that you're capturing. I like those 3 key pillars to what you're doing here.
Well, thank you, Tim.
What else you got? Was that kind of our nickel tour there? Or did you have anything else on your list you wanted to hit?
I think that was, I think that was everything I can show today, Tim.
So built it for a first customer in the real world. You've got number 3 coming on board with this specific thing. You've got the development chops to build whatever solutions on top of this framework. Talk to me though, coming back to web time. What is, you own the IP on this, I think.
Yes.
And so you're hosting it. It's a true like SaaS product. You're not going to install it in a customer's environment, I think. But then what does pricing look like? I know a lot of times when you're up to only customer 3, you're still kind of figuring that out. So maybe you don't have an answer to it, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, it is a true statement. We're still trying to figure that out. We're also trying to be price competitive as well. So given that on an annual
no need to put a number on it then. I think that's good enough. Yeah, that's good enough.
But we're very I think in a lot of cases more price competitive than other third-party solutions, put it that way.
Yeah, not to put the pressure on you to actually do this, but I know like some early Acumatica customers, they just got in and they still pay a pretty good price today. So there's benefits, I guess is my point, to getting in early on something like this. You get in early on something that's a smaller product, and there's financial benefits to doing that. But I like the thinking that you've got in place, and then even knowing that you come from a heritage of software development, not just individually, but your dad too. That's cool that you're always thinking that way, and yet you're coming at it from the real world client. I don't know. It just seems like you found a way to blend those things together, still serve your clients as a true consultancy firm, but now have the ability to execute these mobile projects on the framework that you've created. It's got to feel pretty good. I don't know. Am I overdoing it, or is this really kind of like a how would I say it? Is this like a new door that's kind of open for you into like, hey, I can now not just do services, but I've got a 2 product. Is it that dramatic of a shift for you?
Well, in a way it is. So, because I spent so much of my career in software development, it's ironic because at one point I wanted to do anything but software development. But through the journey of starting this firm, I really fell back in love with software development. I really have, because I feel like I'm going back to where I started, and we've just had so much fun with this. And the validation really is the customer. When the customer tells you, hey, if we couldn't do business without this product, that really means something. It means, we did our job.
And so, when you make it sound like you left software development and came back around, that when you were out, was it the services side? Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So you went out into the wild and saw how things work right? Not just from the engineering, I'm going to build something cool and they will come approach, and maybe they never come. And now you're looping that back in. I could see how that is what makes it fun, to actually know that you've got something that works in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yes.
Any other things? Oh, we got Toon left a comment. Let's see. Is there any of these not for manufacturing, just for construction, and project planner? Actually, I don't even know. I know there's the project management side of construction. There is the time entry already, so actually I'm not sure what Toon means there. Do you know what project planner is? That another third party? I don't know.
I'm not really sure what they mean by that, Tim.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Be happy to dig into that.
But I will flash your email up on the screen there for anyone who would like to dig into this specific web time application or any other mobile app needs that need to interface with Acumatica with offline capability. Other than that, any other final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Tim, I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope this podcast episode is beneficial for folks out there who are looking for this type of solution, or just if you just want to talk to us about how we did it and what we did. I'm happy to do that as well.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time to share, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tim.